Hello everyone, my name is Alicia Jackson, licensed professional counselor, and welcome to my channel. Today we are reviewing Married at First Sight Season 15, Episode 7. On this channel we do a quick therapist review and learn from these couples as they are brave enough to get married at first sight. This episode, it is back to reality, and reality definitely hit some of these couples smack dab in the face. Yes, in the face. So, before we get into it, if you are returning, of course, please subscribe to the channel, like the video, comment below, join in, let me know your thoughts as you are watching as well. I'm always curious as to what you guys are seeing from your perspective. So let's get into it. First, we have Stacia and Nate. And so we knew this couple was going to be a bit challenging when it came to cohabitating, as Nate really let the cat out of the bag that he's a bit messy, and Stacia said that her friends described her as uncomfortably clean. When we see her apartment, oh my goodness, the kitchen. A thing about me is I am a baker. So that island, that very large island, was just beautiful. It was breathtaking. I was in love. The staging in her bedroom, having that bed and breakfast tray there and the pillows, it was beautiful. It definitely felt like her house was for sale. Did not look like she lived in it, but it was immaculate for sure. Nate's home, on the other hand, definitely looked lived in. He had a lot of empty containers and Stacia was going through them. You could tell Nate was very, very, very self-conscious about that. She also found 2 dirty wine glasses in the cabinet. Now, on the after party, he says these dirty wine glasses are 5 months old. I don't know. That sounds like a long time to have 2 dirty wine glasses in your cabinet. I don't know if there's a part of him that's trying to be protective. Again, we're still on the fence with Nate and his sincerity. This does come up in their meeting with Pastor Cal. As Pastor Cal is saying how Stacia is just lit up. She is happy to be with Nate. She's happy to be married. And he's, of course, talking about the real things. Normally around this time, they're talking about finances, kids, things of that nature, and of course, intimacy. And so Nate has this very, very high expectation of himself to be making $250,000 a year before he has children. Right now, he's currently making $150,000 a year. And Stacia is saying that that doesn't need to be the case, especially because she makes $450,000 a year. Did you hear that? Whew, that's a lot of money. Now, the thing that was a bit curious and interesting for me is that Pastor Cal asked them what their goals were for their marriage. Both of them stated financial goals. Want to be power couple. Nate did say that he wants someone to, where he's weak, he wants the other person to have strengths, and they can. But it was still in the area of finances. She talked about the same. And I'm like, where's the connection? Where's building together? Where's this wonderful family that both of you were talking about that you wanted to build together? It's really focused on finances. And I'm just really curious about that. Both of them seem to have maybe parts of them that are still being hesitant when it comes to connecting emotionally. And this comes up as Stacia is saying that she feels like Nate is just sharing surface level information. She's sharing all of her stuff, all of her experiences. And she feels like she doesn't really know him, doesn't know all of his experiences. Oh, okay, things were distant between you and your mom, but what does that mean? What does that look like for you? How was that for you? Pastor Cal stated that Nate is going to have to force himself to let those walls down in order to create a space of vulnerability and intimacy in his relationship with Stacia. And he said, I think I agree with Pastor Cal in part. Yes, he's going to have to do some work to be more vulnerable. And at the same time, asking him, what is it that you need to see from Stacia in order to be vulnerable with her? What do you need to see? That's what I'm curious about. Nate seems to be just very, very measured. He seems to be very stoic, like you don't really know what he's feeling. You might know what he's thinking, but you don't know what he's feeling. And I'm curious if he's truly, truly connected to his emotions. And this comes up as they go back to their apartment and they're having this conversation and kind of debriefing with about Pastor Cal, and they're meeting with Pastor Cal. And he said, there's just not much to share. There's no emotional connection to the absence of his mother in his life. And there seems to be a part of him that has either numbed that pain or has created some emotional distance because of that. I remember the first episode, his father wasn't a person that expressed his emotions or said that he cried. We see that Nate is very, very stoic. Even on the after party, he seemed to have a part of him that was critical of Justin's emotions. There was a part of him that was even judging because he's so emotional. And he was stating that because Justin is emotional, that he's not someone that he would go to for advice or seek guidance from. This may be one of the reasons why Nate comes off as not being sincere or genuine. There's still a part of me that has that concern. And at the same time, him having some emotional distance can also be a really dangerous territory for Stacia. If he's not feeling connected to his emotions, what does that mean for her and her emotions? Will he be present for her? Chances are not. Oftentimes people who do have distance from their emotions, they can have a part of them that is dismissive of emotions or sees other people who do have emotions as weak because of their protector that is blocking their emotions. And unfortunately, we do have this societal norm, this legacy burden that emotions and showing emotions makes you weak, especially as a man and especially as a Black man. I do feel like the quirky things that are happening in this episode, meaning Stacia and her breathing through the fact that Nate goes to bed in his gym clothes, that there are empty containers and empty plastic containers in his drawers, things of that nature. That's something that takes time, but is easier to fix than restructuring or working with the parts of you that have been protecting you, like Nate's emotions and him learning to connect to his softer emotions. That's going to take a lot of time, and that's going to truly communicate to us if he is committed and truly genuine and being genuine with Stacia. Next, we have Morgan and Binh. And I just want to note too that their apartments are so cute, and they have these little personalized mats for each of their apartments. I thought that was actually a really cute little touch. And Morgan is meeting Binh's frugal part. I'm hearing it even when she said, "Hey, you didn't flush the toilet after you used it." He's like, "Well, it was a number one," saying like, "Oh, if it's yellow, let it mellow. If it's brown, flush it down." Some people have that as a way to conserve water. And we also see his frugal part is coming out requesting for Morgan not to do laundry during peak hours, to unplug devices till 6 p.m. I do see where Morgan is being open, and at the same time she is taking this in. Like, this is a lot. This is a complete life change. And it's interesting to see how she puts her foot down. When they were at her apartment and he said, "Oh my goodness," he saw her espresso machine. He's like, this is a lot of wattage. And she used a lot of choice words to communicate that we will use this espresso machine. And he said that, he was okay with it, as if he had a choice. It was interesting to see Binh's questions surrounding this cat. I get a sense that Binh has this very frantic part that has to find resolution. Like in that moment at the honeymoon when he was seeking support from Justin, he was needing some resolution. He couldn't let it be unresolved. And so he even talked about it on the after party. He talked from a very, very sincere and remorseful place. And at the same time, he owned to the fact that he said sometimes that there's a part of him that can be impulsive. And it sounds like that shows up in moments where things are unsettled, where there's ambiguity, and he needs things to be certain, right? And that's the need for the rigidity and the rules, right? So he needs things to be certain. And so Morgan is a person who has had to deal with ambiguity. She has had to deal with this push and pull relationship. That's how she described it to Pastor Cal. her relationship with her father, as the subject of trust comes up again because of the situation at the honeymoon. Pastor Cal said something a bit interesting. He said that Binh apologizing was a step or proof that it's okay to trust him. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. What I will say is the fact that he's taking accountability, and he's constantly taking accountability, like he has remained very consistent in that. That shows Morgan that he is sincere about his apology. Change behavior will help her, especially this part of her that is resistant. I'm sure with this push and pull relationship that she's had with her father, that he's apologized many times, and then maybe went on to continue to do this behavior that she said she wouldn't be able to continue to deal with. And so changed behavior is really how this trust can be rebuilt and having true connection. So we see here in the intimacy department that Binh is a little awkward. I kept picking up awkward energy from him. It seems like the only way he knows how to connect is through humor and through maybe activities, like doing shared activities. That's the way he connects, and also through humor. When it comes to touch, you saw he was a bit awkward. Even Pastor Cal called him out on it, and he was like, well, maybe I'll YouTube it. Again, with the humor. I feel like this is the area where Binh is lacking some confidence and could really use some tools and skills on how to build genuine connection and communicate effectively in a relationship. Man, I wish these experts would do, again, more in-depth skill training with these couples. It's like they throw them into the deepest end of the pool and they try to teach them how to swim from the outside of the pool. They don't give them a floater. They don't give them a life preserver. They're not in the water with them. They're on the outside of the pool, like kind of yelling out instructions to them instead of really working with them to help them build these skills. That's really why Married at First Sight can be so frustrating to watch. And sometimes even these counseling sessions or meetings with the experts, because they only truly reach the surface of what's really going on with these couples. Truly. Next, we have Kristen and Mitch. As they are moving into their new apartment, they're both very, very impressed. They said that the apartment was an upgrade from where they both live. And Mitch also makes known that he did grab a lot of the condoms that was in the honeymoon suite to say that he's prepared, for whatever happens. And he also stated that he's feeling completely different than where he was a week ago and really feeling like they have a good connection. So Kristen sees Mitch's apartment and Mitch washes his plants and waters his plants in his shower. I'm really trying to understand that. The stove, my goodness, was very dirty. It's very true to Mitch's style of like, I'm not going to put on for you. I want you to see me, genuine me, right? I'm not going to shine up my house or have it cleaned to make you think I'm this wonderful, clean person. You're going to see how I keep my house. Like, this is how I keep my house. So it's very true to Mitch's style. And at the same time, Kristen was very unsettled by the appearance of his apartment and stated that she would not return. Kristen's puppy has a lot of needs. She breathes pretty heavily, and Mitch is concerned about his tolerance level, and he seems pretty intimidated by all the needs that this puppy has. But he jokingly said that he's up for the challenge and he's ready for it, but you can see that this is going to be a stretch for him. Now, at the after party, we learned that they exchanged gifts. Mitch gave Kristen this necklace that he found in true Mitch form, and of course, we see what Kristen gave to Mitch. My first response on how it was edited was, why is Krysten continuing to thank Mitch. There was a part of me that was just like, why does this keep happening? And why isn't it being reciprocated? So having this information at the after party was very helpful for my parts, who were really concerned about Krysten maybe being over accommodating. She even talked about the fact that she is accommodating, and at the after party talked about how she's very adaptable. I think that there's a part of her that is overestimating her adaptability. After a while, marriage is forever. It is death do us part. And after a while, it is inevitable that your partner is going to irk you or get on your nerves. There are idiosyncrasies. Mitch has a lot of them. He has a lot of them. Krysten also talked about scenes that we didn't see where Mitch didn't want to go to Krysten's grocery store. They had to go to his special grocery store, and he doesn't use plastics. So the vegetables were on the conveyor belt, and he put them in his fanny pack as he was leaving the grocery store. And this really made Krysten cringe, as she's concerned about germs, and it's still a pandemic outside. During their visit with Pastor Kyle, Mitch stated that at first, he was very, very scared. And the pressure and the expectation of their families being hopeful about their relationship was putting a lot of pressure on him to behave whatever way, and that he is starting to bring his walls down. Krysten says that she truly loves this marriage. I feel like that's a part of her communicating that she does love this marriage. I feel like there's also a part of her that has some concerns about Mitch's idiosyncrasies and everything that comes with him. And she's not truly being honest with herself. She's not listening to all of her parts. And that's something that's very common. If there's an internal struggle and two protectors are kind of fighting against each other, in this sense, Krysten has a protector that's seeing these things that Mitch is doing and saying, I don't know how long I'm going to be able to deal with this. And then she has another protector that's like, I just want to be married. We hear it even in the session with Pastor Cal when she talks about having children and how all of her friends are married with children, and she saw herself having at least one child by now. So there's this expectation of how her life was supposed to go. So there's a part of her that is being very hopeful and adaptable and wanting this relationship and seeing maybe only the good to keep this relationship going. And at the same time, both parts need to be listened to. But sometimes we only listen to the part that has more to risk. Meaning, if this relationship doesn't work, again, I'll be in the dating scene, still behind the 8 ball. I expected to be married with one child by now, and now I'm going to make it work. I'm going to do whatever I can to make this work. And this part of me that has these concerns about his idiosyncrasies and his ways, and the fact that I can't go to the grocery store that I want to go to, and the vegetables on the conveyor belt, I just won't listen to that part. And this is where we mess up. We have to listen to both parts, because both parts have wisdom. Both parts truly have wisdom. Pastor Cal also talked about the fact that they're both still playing it safe, that they're not talking really future talk or using the L word. And Mitch is having some concerns about that, saying, hey, we only met 2 weeks ago, which he's absolutely right. They have only met 2 weeks ago. Sometimes it is a bit off-putting to a part of me that Married at First Sight, and specifically Pastor Cal, is very, very focused on them consummating their marriage. I understand that it is 8 weeks, and so that's the issue. It's 8 weeks, so there's pressure to build the intimacy, but that takes time. And both of them still have their protectors up. Pastor Cal said something very, very poignant, though. He said that love and fear cannot coexist. There's some truth to that. There really is, because if fear is present, protectors come up. And when protectors come up, it is self-preservation first. And so we'll continue to see how this plays out in their relationship. Yes, they did consummate their marriage, as Krysten had a cute way of letting him know that she was ready. She did also, though, out him at the after party, saying that he had some things to work on in the bedroom department. She went into detail, but I'm going to spare Mitch in this video. So hopefully he doesn't watch the after party. Next, we have Lindy and Miguel. Miguel plays a cruel joke on Lindy, saying that he is allergic to cats. So cruel. What if Lindy said that she was allergic to Dungeons and Dragons? What would you do then, Miguel? See? Miguel is living in a place of reality of Decision Day, which is understandable. Lindy, on the other hand, has a part of her that wants to avoid it. She said it triggers her, it activates her anxiety, and she doesn't want to really talk about Decision Day as she is in it. As for her, there is no Decision Day. There's just we're still married and we're going to keep being married. Lindy learns that she snores, and that's a part of marriage. You get to learn a lot of things about yourself because you are seeing yourself in a completely different lens than you've never seen before. So yes, Lindy, welcome to the fact that you snore. At Miguel's apartment, Lindy is grossed out by the fact that he has bacon grease and he cooks with it. And Lindy just needs some good soul food so she can understand that cooking with bacon grease is where it's at. Miguel introduced her to his Dungeons and Dragons playbook, and he said, "This is my Bible." She responds as that is a little too sacrilegious, as to say that this tends to be something that Miguel jokes about. You can tell that Lindy has a part of her that's very similar to Krysten's, that's really trying to make this work, especially because Miguel is saying, we'll see 2 months, we'll see. And at the same time, Lindy needs to find her voice in this. There's a part of her that's trying to act like she's okay with the fact that he jokes about religion, when there's really a part of her that does not like that. Especially since Miguel goes on to talk about how Lindy is so accepting of his dorky, nerdy parts and all of his quirks. I wonder if Miguel could be appreciative of Lindy's religious upbringing. I wonder. We don't see much of Lindy's apartment, just like her back porch. It seemed like that little area. But at the shared apartment, Miguel is cooking and they're sipping wine together, being silly in the kitchen. That was cute to see. Lindy is impressed by spaghetti, but it tastes good. So if she's happy, I'm happy. He also bought her flowers and they talked about how they missed each other. So it seems like Miguel is really warming up. He did admit to the fact that there's a part of him that was looking for all the reasons to not like a person that they matched him with. And Lindy said it still feels like you're still looking. And he said, no, I really have warmed up to you. I really warmed up to you. He stated that the connection that he has with Lindy is something that will usually take months to a year to develop with someone normally. And so he's really not thinking about the 8 weeks anymore, as he talked about too with Pastor Cal. I also see how Miguel is bending. He is bending. They renamed Decision Day to Renewal Vow Day to really help Lindy to be able to talk about it, because that's something that they do need to talk about, and to make it something that's positive. I'm hoping that for Miguel, it's coming from a genuine place, as he's saying that as of now, he's seeing that this is something that he wants to continue to do. During their meeting with Pastor Cal, there seems to be a part of Lindy that is looking for a test, that is like anxiously awaiting conflict, like wants it to happen to resolve anxiety about if they can handle conflict. She's waiting for it to happen. There's also maybe even a part of her that wants it to happen. And Pastor Cal's trying to talk her down, saying, hey, just conflict's going to come. Believe me, conflict's going to come. And he's right. It will. And so making sure that there's not a part that comes in to sabotage or make a conflict because she's so anxious about how they're going to handle it. Now, Lindy made a pretty interesting request of Miguel, stating that if there is conflict or any concerns or issues that he has with her, that he keep it to himself, that he doesn't share it with her, because she feels like it will be a punishment for her behavior if he does. That seems to be very interesting to me. I'm really curious about this. I want to know more about the part of her that doesn't want to hear where Miguel is or if he has concerns or issues with her, because I would imagine that there would be a part of her that would be anxious. Like, I'm wondering if he's withholding anything from me. As he's saying he doesn't want to do that because in the past he withheld information and then broke off the relationship because he wasn't being honest about where he was in the relationship. It really feels like this part is saying to Miguel, don't tell me how you feel. Don't communicate with me. Just keep liking me. And so then that makes me curious if Lindy is doing the same thing. If she's withholding and not sharing the things about Miguel that she may have some concerns about. Last, we have Alexis and Justin. This was a rough episode for this couple. They were coming home from the honeymoon, talking about how much they miss their dogs and their animals. As Justin has a cat, they are seeing each other's apartment, and Alexis is she is an artist. Her work is definitely very impressive, and we get to see that Justin truly has a genuine bachelor pad. It's very small, and he's saying, well, we're going to get something bigger. And Alexis said, you're for sure. She likes the amenities. She wants some amenities. She wants a gym. She says she's looking for space. Both of them seem to have concerns about how well their animals are going to get along, and it just shows up differently. Alexis is reaching for certainty as she really cares about her dog. And she asks Justin, do you see that there may be or any concerns that you feel may come up with the dog's meeting? He says no. Well, we see in the episode, once the dogs get to the apartment, Maya, Justin's dog, is growling pretty intensely, bites Alexis' dog in the eye, poor little thing, and she takes the dog to urgent care, and the little baby has to get stitches. Justin, of course, is distraught because this has happened, and we see on other footage where Alexis feels like Justin wasn't being honest with her, wasn't being fully transparent with her about his dog and in her demeanor. Alexis stated that her and Justin talked about the situation and that Maya was going to go to a doggy camp to get some training, and that if the dog couldn't be trained, that he was going to have to get rid of Maya. And Justin's really torn about this. He's taking the dog to training, but you can see that he's torn up about it. Even in his confessional, the producers asked him, and he said, I don't even want to talk about that. I'm not going to manifest that. Well, this comes up again in their meeting with Pastor Cal, as Alexis is really taking this as her trust being broken. There's a part of her that is looking to run. It sees this red flag, and it's running. And you see it even in her demeanor, her face, her affect has completely changed. There's no more smiles and giggles. It's very stern, and she is becoming more hypervigilant. She feels like honesty doesn't mean the same thing to Justin as it does for her. What I see is that Alexis is a direct communicator. Sometimes she can be a painfully direct communicator, and she even requested for Justin to tell her. She said, overshare. Tell me everything, even if it's going to hurt my feelings. And Justin does not communicate that way. Justin is more of a passive communicator, or there's also a part of him that tends to exaggerate and oversell something as a way of protecting him from his insecurities, and also the potential of displeasing someone. In this case, Alexis. Everything's going to be fine. I don't see any issues that will happen. And this is pretty characteristic of a person that does have a people pleaser part that is in the driver's seat. His people pleasing part is very much in the driver's seat, and so he's often coming from a place of communication to make sure that the other person feels safe, is happy, especially in a relationship, and as much as he cares for Alexis. And at the same time, he needs to be true to himself and be able to be true to Alexis. I see both sides, where Justin didn't think that the dogs connecting was going to be a big issue, and I see Alexis' side of, hey, she had previous altercations. Yes, she may have been on the victim end, but that's something just to be aware of, to let me know. Tell me everything. Don't withhold information. And so this area of communication is definitely going to be a place where they have to grow from. I also see that Alexis is going to have her walls up in the area of trust and potentially continue to look for reasons not to trust Justin. Justin and Alexis are really reminding us of Morgan and Binh. It seems they're seeming very, very similar. So this will be interesting how this will play out in the area of trust and rebuilding trust. Let me know your thoughts. Can trust be rebuilt in a relationship after it's been broken? Do you feel like Nate is going to open up and it's going to let his walls down and it's going to do the work to connect with his emotions, to be present and vulnerable with Stacia? Will Lindy be honest with herself about how she's really feeling in her relationship with Miguel? And the same question for Krysten. Will she also begin to be more honest about how she is feeling in this relationship with Mitch? Let me know your thoughts. If you have stuck around for this long, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and as always, be cool, be calm, be centered. Peace.